That's what I did when I opened up. Boom, just jumped to today. Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday, the first day of Elul, Rosh Chodesh. And we're starting new section 10 in Igeres HaKodesh. And a little overview before we begin. Hashem's chesed. God's chesed is moderated by his restraint, gvura. What does that mean? We'll explain. Hence, even a mitzvah like tzedakah has its limits. However, when one has transgressed the law and is in need of spiritual repair, don't we all? One must transcend the law, going beyond the conventional limitations of giving. This splurging, giving above and beyond, elicits a similar divine response of abundant blessing. Okay, we've been talking about this in today's lesson. The source of the godly energy that is evoked through Torah mitzvahs is infinite. Just like Torah is infinite, God is infinite. However, in order for this energy to flow into our limited world and be generated through action-based finite mitzvahs, this energy needs to go first through a contraction. Okay, after greetings of life and peace. May by opening words rouse the ear that hears the life-giving admonition. Asher Echiach Hashem Chaim al Yidei Nevioi v'Omar Chasti Hashem ki lo yisamnu. The living Hashem admonishes through his prophet, saying the kindness of Hashem have surely not ended. So surprisingly, the word in Hebrew here is tamnu, in the first person, which would make the phrase mean we have not been brought to an end. So if the verse sought to say that kindnesses have not ended, rather than because of God's kindnesses, we have not been brought to an end, it surely should have used the word tamu in the third person, plural, instead of tamnu. As the Alter Rebbe goes on to point out, it should have said ki lo yisamu. Your kindnesses have not ended. So the Alter Rebbe answers that our pasuk indeed implies two ideas. A, the kindnesses have not ended, and B, we stand in need of Hashem's kindness. Ki lo yisamnu, because we are not perfect, we are not complete. Whenever my kid would say, "Ta, I messed up, I did something wrong," I'm like, okay, good, you're normal. We're human beings, we mess up. The chiddush is to be able to admit it and to ask Hashem forgiveness. This anomaly will be understood in light of the statement in the sacred Zohar that there are two types of chesed, two types of kindness. Is chesed olam. There's chesed olam, literally a world like chesed, a degree of chesed which is limited by boundaries. Is chesed ilah, v'hu chesed rav chesed. And then there's superior kindness, rav, boundless kindness, rav chesed. We didn't even say yet infinite chesed, but we'll get to that. Since it is man's spiritual service that draws down the bracha, you have to do your part. You have to go to Hashem, especially now we're talking about in the month of Elul, where you have to do tshuva. And then when we get to Rosh Chodesh, Yom Kippur, and all the days ahead, so Hashem is going to reciprocate that effort and shower us with tremendous blessing. But we have to do our part. And the Rebbe goes on to explain that what manner of service elicits a downward flow of the chesed of the world, and the manner of service that draws down the boundless degree of rav chesed. So which areas do we have to tap into, whether it's davening, mitzvahs, learning Torah, action-based mitzvahs, in order to bring this blessing down from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, first into our lives and also into the rest of the world? The Torah is called strength. So in the pasuk, Hashem grants strength to his people. We're talking about Torah. When you learn Torah, you're granted strength through Lashon Gevura, which is an expression of Gevura. So literally, Gevura means might. And more specifically, as the name of one of the spheres, it signifies in contradistinction, the chesed, the withholding of bracha, the withholding of blessings, as regulated by the divine attribute of stern justice. So you have chesed, which is kindness. Hashem showers us with unlimited kindness. And then you have gevura, sometimes the kindness is held back. And sometimes that in and of itself is also a bracha, as we'll soon see. Can't always just give. What happens if you give a kid too much candy, or if you give a kid something dangerous to play with? You're not being cruel by holding back, you're actually giving. As our sages have said, the 613 commandments, the very word of commandment alone is gvura. I command you to do something. It's like it's a stern way of, right? It was done through gvura, meaning the 613 commandments were uttered by Hashem as he manifests himself in the attribute of gvura, and for which reason he himself here is referred to by the name of this attribute. A lot of times we feel it's actually deeper kindness, but we feel like these restrictions, quote unquote. Can you call home, the home phone number? I think David or somebody's trying to call me. Lee, a lot of times we feel like, oh, it's so restrictive. We can't do this, we can't do that, and we can't do this. So it's a Gevura approach. But in reality, you see that there are people that are not even Jewish or not even are taking on like unplug Shabbos, whatever. What do they call it? Like the concept of unplugging and sitting with family. So you realize that it might seem as a restriction. We can't do this, we can't do that, but truly it's the chesed of Hashem to enable us to connect with him. But anyway, let's leave that aside for a second. The pasuk says, this is in Hazino, right? From his right hand, a Torah, fire was given unto them. It was written in fire, and this is the expression of the attribute of Gvura Perush. This means the Alter Rebbe instructs the explanation, which anticipates the following question. And since the Torah was given Yiminoi from the right hand, which always connotes kindness and benevolence, and indeed the Torah was called Torah's Chesed, a Torah of kindness, so how can we say that the Torah is an expression of fire and Gvura? The source of the Torah was already stated that it's the kindness from the right side of Hashem. The elicitation of Hashem, which is the radiation of the Oir and Saif, to the upper worlds and the lower worlds, which affects a person who draws down the light upon himself, the light of Hashem. How does he do that? By the fulfillment of the 248 positive mitzvahs, which are the 248 organs of the king, says the Zayar. So these are the 248 vessels and garments for the radiation of the infinite Oir Ein Sof light that is vested in them. As is known from this light, awe and love are drawn down upon a person as he performs each commandment. So how do we draw down the light of Hashem, the blessing upon us and our families? Through the 248 positive mitzvahs. Those are action-based mitzvahs. And obviously, we cannot perform all of them today because many of them pertain to mitzvahs in the Beis Hamikdash, times of Mashiach, or I'm saying the times of the Beis Hamikdash, which will be soon again when Mashiach comes. But the ones that we can do, the putting on the tefillin, saying the tzitzis, benching after we eat. The Torah and its commandments are thus a downflow of godliness springing from his attribute of chesed. This downward flow is first vested in Hashem's attribute of Gvura, which is referred to as fire. Which reflects a contraction. If not for this symptom, it would never be able to be vested in the vessels that we're going to put, that we're going to, in order to collect these blessings. The mitzvahs themselves involve material things. Tzitzis, with tefillin, or kabbanos, with tzedakah, like tzitzis made of wool, tefillin are leather and parchment, sacrifices, offerings from plants, animals, minerals, and tzedakah, which involves money or other material objects. Even mitzvahs like loving God and fearing God, By the way, you think to yourself that it's just a spiritual mitzvah nature. Yeah, it's abstract in a certain sense, but it still uses the brain and the heart, which is the physical part of you. So even commandments that involve a man's spirit, such as Allah Hashem, are also limited measure and by no means of infinite extent. Obviously, if we're using our intellect to think of the greatness of Hashem, or if we're using our emotions, there's a limit. So not even for a moment could a man sustain in his heart so intense a love of Hashem that, a love that would be without end and limitation and still remain in existence. Such an intense love would cause the soul to depart the body, as it may have happened with some of the holiest of our sages. What happened when we received the Torah? We had such a tremendous love of Hashem, there was such a revelation of godliness that our souls took flight from their bodies. So at that time, Hashem restored the souls and revived the dead, just like He will do, God willing, very soon when Mashiach comes by Tchias HaMesim. You see, however, that the illumination in and of itself was so intense that their souls could not remain within their bodies even for a moment. So obviously, our love of Hashem and our emotional connection is limited to our physical world, and in that we could understand that we need Gvura. So if it was Chesed, our souls would fly out, and we wouldn't be able to fulfill our mission here on earth. The takeaway for today is the divine commandments are finite packages of godliness. So each mitzvah that we do is a package of Hashem, allowing us to take a piece of God through the fulfillment of each particular mitzvah. Deep, powerful stuff. Have a wonderful month, and all the best.